Mugira mwumvirize ijambo ry'umukuru w'ibiro bikuru vya gisirikare ca FNL General Major Aloyizinza Bampema mu mutega amatwi.
Hi, so the politics in the Greater Lakes region, in Burundi, Congo, and Rwanda can sometimes be very complicated. Now, in this video, which I'm showing you right now, these are fighters of a group called FNL, right? Which is the French for National Forces of Liberation, and basically in French is Forces Nationales de Liberation. That is the FNL, and it's made up initially it's made up of the Hutus. And as you know, most conflicts in that region involve the Hutus attacking the Tutsi and the Tutsi attacking the Hutu, overthrowing governments. In Burundi, for example, there have been 3 assassinations of Burundi presidents by Tutsi rebels and military officers, and in Rwanda the same thing happened. So that is the kind of struggle that has been taking place there for the last 50 years. And FNL was made up by Hutus who had fled to Tanzania, and then they came back. They started attacking Burundi government forces at the time when the Burundi government was made up of Tutsis, right? And after that, they even went to Congo and attacked Banyamulenge people there, and they were basically attacking Tutsis and so on and so on. Now, let's come to today, right? The video you're seeing here, these are the same FNL rebels or the remnants of that group, and they've recently been armed. You can see the cache of arms they have. Very new weapons, crazy amount of ammunition, mortars, and what is very conspicuous is the uniform. Now, the video is not clear because it was taken by phone, but they are the same uniform that is given to the M23 rebels in Congo, in the North Kivu region. So if you look closely, you notice the same patterns of the uniform that sometimes the M23 rebels wear or don, and together with the other uniform in there. Those are Congolese government uniform, probably captured or stolen or even acquired. But mostly I want you to see the new uniform they're wearing is from the M23, or it's similar to what the M23 put on. And we know the M23 gets this directly from Rwanda. Some of the uniform actually were captured, the soldiers who are wearing them, and we saw inside there they are written that it was made in China, Fabrique de China, and it also had for the Rwandan government or something like that, for the Rwandan army. So that's that insignia inside one of the jackets that was written like that. So we know these uniforms are usually manufactured in China on behalf of the Rwandan government. Now, the story here is that these FNL have made a pledge to fight the current government in Burundi, led by Evariste Ndayishimiye. As a matter of fact, they were saying that the intention is to fight until Ndayishimiye and CNDD-FDD, which is the ruling party there, gets out of power. That's what they are saying. And you have to understand that it is Paul Kagame or Rwandan military officers who are giving these guys these kind of weapons. As you can see, these are very new weapons. They're giving them this uniform and they're inciting them against Burundi. The reason being is that Rwanda is a Tutsi-led government. The Tutsis are in power. Almost every government position is filled by Tutsis, the loyalists. And in Burundi, it's the opposite, right? The government there is a Hutu government, and the same thing. Everyone that is loyal is a Hutu and is in government. And so the two governments kind of see each other as enemies, arch-rival, historical enemies. And Rwanda wants to keep Burundi busy with these rebels. The other time I told you they had also trained and armed another group called RED-Tabara. But the RED-Tabara doesn't have a big number of members. And the other problem is that the RED-Tabara is made up of Tutsi rebels trying to overthrow the Burundi government. Now, the FNL, as I said, is made up of the Hutu rebels also opposed to the government. Now, Rwanda have decided, instead of just arming the RED-Tabara, let's also arm the FNL. And since we can't ask RED-Tabara and FNL to fight alongside each other, remember, they're also enemies, because one side you have the Tutsi rebel, and the other side you have the Hutu rebel. They've decided to just arm the two of them to keep the Burundi government busy. And if it's busy and it's spending a lot of their budget looking for these rebels, then they won't have time to think of invading Rwanda or stopping Rwanda in case Rwanda invades Burundi. So that's the scenario here. In other words, it's just Paul Kagame trying to provoke Burundi, while at the same time he's funding and fighting in Congo through his proxies, the M23. In other words, Rwanda is involved in almost 2-3 fronts of the war in that region. They're fighting heavy wars, and the evidence for that is that if you ask people from Rwanda, they'll tell you that recently in Rwanda they have this culture in the army where any commissioned officer is buried in a military cemetery in what they call Kanombe Military Cemetery, which is next to the Kigali International Airport. So recently they were saying that cemetery is now full. It's completely full, and people who get buried there are not the servicemen. These are officers. So Rwanda is losing soldiers, including their commissioned officers, to a point that they are filling cemeteries. And this is a country that is officially not at war with anyone. I mean, it's at peace. That's the official statement. Rwanda is not fighting. Just the same way you would say Tanzania or Kenya. They are not at war, right, with anyone. So you would not expect, apart from the fact that Kenya is actually in Somalia, but Tanzania is also in Congo. But the thing I'm trying to say is, officially they are not at war with anyone. Rwanda, as a matter of fact, is not at war with anyone, but they are burying their troops at the same rate, probably closer to what Ukraine is doing.